SIM is really one of the pioneers in set-top box data research. Can you talk a little bit about some of the past projects and some future ideas?
Sure. And full disclosure, thanks to
Yes.
Charlene, that she helped Sim last year by writing our lexicon of over 800 set-top box terms that's up on the Sim website and is also featured in Media Post and a TV board column every week. And
Thank you.
also we worked together on the white paper, which is also up on the Sim website. And uh, that was published last fall, and we spoke confidentially to all of the players, over almost 60 companies in the set-top box ecosystem. And I really think we got a very good understanding of the landscape and where it's going, the roadmap for the future. That hasn't changed, that much in the last 6 months. And what we really found there was that you need more data to really make this viable in the industry. Particularly, and I would say that in the roadmap, we looked at set-top box data not only from the audience measurement use, but also from the point of view that set-top box data can have a lot of other uses in the television industry. It can be used as the foundation for addressable advertising and reporting. It can be used as a way of targeting and locating and finding the networks and the programs that are most likely uh, places where the viewers that you're trying to reach are going to be found. And it can also be used by the MVPDs, the multi-channel video programming distributors, which is a new name we learned when we did the lexicon for the satellite companies, the telcos, and the cable MSOs. It's also being used by them extensively to um, understand their customers better and the viewing habits of their customers, and to help them in their marketing, their carriage negotiations, and on their advertising side as well. So when we looked at the future of set-top box data, not only do you need to have more data in the marketplace, but what you need is this foundational data standard that now all the MVPDs are working on with the MRC, which also includes privacy guidelines and addresses that whole important issue for the MVPDs. And so once you've got that, then the next step will be to create some standards for how to combine all the data from all these different MVPDs into representative samples, whether locally or nationally. And I would say that when we did the roadmap, we saw the need on the local side, that the local broadcasters are the ones that are the most interested in improving their measurement, and they've been the ones to really sign up for set-top box data, and to try to use it to help them with a couple of key problems that they have, which is to show the stability of the viewership of their programs, and also to solve the zero cell problem, the famous zero cell problem that they always say they have when you have a small sample in a panel and a couple of those people go on vacation. It can look like you don't have anyone watching your shows, and this is a big problem for local broadcasters. And so uh, the set-top box data has been very helpful for them in those on those 2 points, the zero cell problem and the stability problem. Even in spite of other issues that we all know that set-top box data has. We haven't fully resolved the set-on, set-off problem. We haven't fully resolved the how do you model for the over-the-air homes. We haven't fully resolved how do you, what's the best way to get demographics, or to get some description of who it is that's viewing, whether it's purchaser targets, as some companies are using, where they're matching the set-top box data to outside data sets and then identifying prospects or customers for a particular product or service. So whether we stick with age and gender demographics in the future is a good question going forward, or whether we develop purchaser targets. But you need a way of describing the people that are using the machine data, which is what set-top box data is. And that's actually the project that Sim's been working on now, since we're kind of waiting for the MRC to and the MVPDs to put out their guidelines. Is we're very interested in all these secondary databases, the compiled databases such as Experian and Axiom, and some of the purchasing databases that are out there that are available, either the frequent shopper ones, or there's data sets in many different industries across the auto industry, the pharmaceutical industry, and many people in the TV industry don't really understand these data sets and the quality of the data and the strengths and weaknesses of the data. And so we've gone out and hired a direct marketing consultant who worked at Experian for many years. His name is Miles Megdal, and he's working on our next white paper, which is basically called Best Practices in Matching Data Sets to Set-Top Box Data. And this will really help all of the SIM members to better understand how to use these data sets, and when you match them to set-top box data, how to interpret the results. Because what was happening is sometimes SIM members would start to use these data either for targeting, for addressable advertising, advanced advertising applications, and they couldn't always understand the results, and they didn't know if it had to do with the set-top box data or if it was more related to the data set that they were using to identify the people. And so that's why we thought this was really an important project, and we'll be hoping to release that over the summer, and we're very much looking forward to creating more transparency and education for the industry about these data sets.
Are there any preliminary findings that you can talk about?
Well, as I said, Miles is in the middle of all of his interviews right now, and he's talking both to the end users to understand their experiences using these data sets, as well as kind of doing an audit of all of the data sets themselves and where they get their data, how often it's updated, which is a very interesting aspect to these data sets, is that, and this is one kind of preliminary finding, is that when the data is appended to all of the households in the country, when they create these compiled data sets, it's appended once, and then when things change in a household, it's updated. But the old data is not always updated. There isn't always an obvious kind of schedule for how often data is updated. So the classic example is, if I'm a dog owner in this year, in 2011, when my name gets put into this data set, and then, whatever, my dog dies next year, unfortunately, I'm no longer a dog owner, but I'm being treated as a dog owner in that data set for quite a while. And so those are the sort of subtleties of how error can creep into these data sets, and how you really need to get a little bit under the surface to understand how all that data is compiled, what the update schedules are, and how frequently that happens.